the silence dark, whispers in the midnight park. The night is cold, there's no escape. Ghostly figures take their shape.
Welcome back, horror fans, to another spine-tingling episode of Real Talk Horror Edition. I'm your host, Josh, and I'm thrilled to have you with me as we wrap up our deep dive into the eerie and unnerving world of psychological horror. Over the past few weeks, we've explored 3 captivating themes that define this genre. We started with 7 films in mind games and madness, films where reality and fiction blur into chaos, and then 7 films under the category paranoia and the unknown, where isolation and ambiguity drive fear. And we ended with 7 films in our series on trauma and transformation, where personal suffering and grief create horrors far deeper than the supernatural. For each theme, we've spotlighted 7 films that uniquely push the boundaries of psychological terror. Some good, some not so good. And today, we arrive at the final film in our Trauma and Transformation series, and it's a title that I think does a pretty good job weaving in suspense, humor, and unsettling psychological elements into a really fun package. That's 2006's Severance. Now let me set the stage for you. The film, directed by Christopher Smith, known for some other genre-bending works like Triangle and Black Death, Severance is a British horror comedy that takes the idea of a corporate retreat and flips it on its head. Imagine your typical team-building getaway, complete with awkward bonding exercises and reluctant participation, suddenly morphing into a fight for survival. That sounds intriguing, right? And that's exactly what this film delivers. And it does so with a unique blend of dark humor, psychological tension, and some outright horror. The film centers on a group of employees from a weapons manufacturing company who were sent on a weekend retreat in the remote forests of Hungary. Led by their overeager boss, the group arrives at what they assume will be a luxury lodge, only to find a dilapidated house that feels more Texas Chainsaw Massacre than corporate luxury. Things take a darker turn when mysterious assailants begin targeting the team. As they're hunted, one by one, the employees must navigate their own fears, prejudices, and alliances to survive. Along the way, the story cleverly critiques corporate greed and human behavior under extreme pressure. Severance has a wonderful tone to it. It balances moments of laugh-out-loud absurdity with genuine dread. One moment, you're chuckling at the characters' clueless antics, and the next, you're gripping your seat with tension as it ratchets up. The blend of horror and humor is no easy feat, but Smith pulls it off wonderfully, creating a film that's as unsettling as it is entertaining. So why is Severance the perfect capstone to our Trauma and Transformation series? Because it's not just about surviving a physical threat. It's about the psychological toll of fear, mistrust, and corporate dysfunction. It's a story that reminds us how trauma transforms people, often bringing out both the best and the worst in humanity. Get ready, because we're about to dive deep into all of it, the mind games, the paranoia, and the gut punch horror that makes Severance a standout entry in the psychological horror genre. Now, one of Severance's biggest strengths is how it thrives on mental instability and manipulation. At its core, the story pits a group of corporate employees, many of whom already harbor hidden grievances and insecurities, against an unseen, calculating threat. The attackers are methodical, exploiting not only the group's physical vulnerabilities, but their psychological ones as well. The film cleverly plays with the idea of manipulation, both internally and externally. Internally, the corporate culture riddled with power dynamics, passive-aggressive tensions, and mistrust, creates a breeding ground for chaos. When the danger escalates, characters begin turning on each other, questioning motives, and revealing cracks in their carefully curated personas. Externally, the antagonists manipulate their environment to sow confusion and despair, leaving traps and clues designed to lead the group into further danger. The survival of the characters relies on their ability to think critically, adapt quickly, and decipher the intentions of an enemy that always seems 2 steps ahead. This theme of manipulation also extends to us in the audience. Christopher Smith crafts scenes that are deliberately disorienting, pulling the rug out from under us just as we think we have a grasp on what's happening. The result is a heightened sense of unease, as both the characters and the audience are forced to question every decision and assumption. I think another hallmark of Severance is its ability to blur the lines between the mundane and the horrific. The film begins, innocently enough, with the banality of a corporate retreat, a setting ripe for satire. Awkward bonding exercises, office politics, and quirky personalities dominate the opening scenes, lulling us into a false sense of security. But as the narrative progresses here, the tone shifts dramatically, pulling us into a nightmare where the humor becomes a weapon, disarming us just before the horror strikes. This juxtaposition of comedy and terror is one of the film's most ingenious psychological elements. The humor feels natural, almost at times absurd, but it also underscores the escalating dread. By keeping us laughing one moment and gasping the next, Severance creates a constant sense of unease. You're never quite sure if you're supposed to laugh at the absurdity or fear the characters' lives, and the ambiguity really keeps you on edge. Thematically, this blurring of perception and reality mirrors the characters' experiences. At first, their peril seems almost comically exaggerated, a prank or misunderstanding, but as the stakes rise, they're forced to confront the chilling reality of their situation. And the question lingers: is this danger purely physical, or is the horror rooted in their own minds and the psychological scars of their corporate world? While many horror films rely on flat, one-dimensional characters, Severance goes the extra mile to give its ensemble some depth. At first glance, the employees all seem like archetypes: the bossy leader, the sarcastic underachiever, the timid newcomer. But as the story unfolds, these personalities evolve in fascinating ways under the pressure. And I think one of the film's strengths lies in how it subverts the expectations. The people you expect to step up as leaders might falter, while the ones you'd write off as comic relief or dead weight find unexpected reserves of courage and resourcefulness. This dynamic not only adds layers to the characters, but also reflects the psychological theme of transformation. The horror doesn't just come from an external threat. It's also about how the situation forces the characters to confront their own fears, flaws, and instincts for survival. One example: some characters reveal surprising camaraderie, rising above their petty workplace conflicts to protect one another. Others, however, succumb to cowardice or selfishness, exposing the darker side of human nature. The psychological complexity elevates Severance beyond a simple survival story, making it a fascinating study of how trauma shapes and reveals character. And few things are as unsettling as the fear of the unknown, and Severance does this really great job of tapping into this primal instinct. The setting, a remote forest in Hungary, becomes a character in its own right, isolating the team and amplifying their paranoia. Every shadow, every rustle in the trees feels like a potential threat, and the audience, like the characters, is left to wonder: who is hunting them and why. This sense of dread is heightened by the film's refusal to immediately reveal its antagonists. The group's assumptions are repeatedly shattered, forcing them and us to constantly reassess the situation. Are they dealing with disgruntled locals, a rogue military group, or something even more sinister? This ambiguity keeps the tension high, as the true nature of the threat remains just out of reach. The film also plays with the idea that the real horror might not be the attackers at all, but the corporate culture that brought the team to this place. Their company's morally questionable business dealings, selling weapons after all, casts a shadow over the narrative, making the characters question whether their plight is a form of karmic retribution. This layering of moral ambiguity and existential fear makes Severance a deeply unsettling exploration of the shadows and the unknown, both internal and external. Severance is a great piece of psychological horror, weaving together themes of manipulation, blurred realities, complex characters, and the terror of the unknown. It's a film that doesn't just scare you, it makes you think, laugh, and question everything you thought you knew about the human psyche under pressure. The cinematography in Severance, helmed by Ed Wild, is a crucial element in creating its unsettling atmosphere. Wild masterfully balances the picturesque beauty of the Hungarian forest with the lurking sense of danger that permeates the film. Wide sweeping shots of the vast, dense forest emphasize the characters' isolation, making them seem small and vulnerable against the overwhelming expanse of nature. These serene landscapes lull us into a false sense of security, creating a stark contrast when chaos erupts. When the violence begins, the visual style shifts dramatically. The camera work becomes tighter, more erratic, mirroring the characters' panic and disorientation. This contrast between calm, composed wide shots and frantic, chaotic close-ups mirrors the tonal shifts of the film, where humor gives way to horror in an instant. Wild's use of lighting further heightens the psychological tension, with natural daylight scenes giving way to ominous shadows and dimly lit interiors as the story descends into darkness. This visual dichotomy between serene nature and bloody violence not only shocks but also reinforces the film's psychological core, the idea that beneath the surface of order and normalcy lies chaos and brutality. The sound design in Severance is another powerful tool in crafting its psychological tension. The film's use of sound alternates between two extremes: eerie, oppressive silences and sudden, jarring bursts of noise. The silences are particularly effective in building suspense, as they force us to listen intently for the slightest hint of danger. This auditory stillness creates an almost unbearable tension, making the abrupt sounds of screams, gunfire, or breaking branches even more startling. Christian Henson's score plays a pivotal role in shaping the film's tone. His music shifts seamlessly between playful, comedic cues and ominous, unsettling compositions, mirroring the movie's tonal balancing act. During the moments of levity, the music takes on a quirky, almost whimsical quality, reflecting the absurdity of the situation. But as the horror intensifies, the score transforms, utilizing deep, droning bass notes and sharp, discordant strings to evoke dread and unease. A standout example is how the score underscores moments of paranoia. A simple, repetitive motif might start as a lighthearted accompaniment to the group's banter, but gradually becomes darker and more sinister as their situation deteriorates. This musical evolution mirrors the character's psychological descent and keeps viewers emotionally off balance, unsure of what to expect next. And the setting, the remote forest lodge, functions to amplify the film's psychological horror. The lodge itself is isolated, surrounded by miles of dense, uncharted forest. This remoteness immediately establishes a sense of vulnerability, as the characters are far removed from help or escape. The forest, while visually stunning, becomes a menacing labyrinth where unseen dangers lurk in every shadow. The lodge's interior contrasts with its natural surroundings, offering a false sense of safety. Its confined spaces quickly become claustrophobic as tensions rise among the group. The lack of reliable communication, no cell service, no internet, exacerbates the character's sense of helplessness, trapping them in an environment where the rules of civilization no longer apply. And I think what makes this setting particularly effective is its layered symbolism. The forest and lodge reflecting the duality of the film's tone. On the surface, they seem idyllic, almost inviting, much like the team-building retreat itself. But as the story unfolds, they reveal their true nature as harbingers of danger and chaos. This transformation mirrors the character's journey as their corporate camaraderie dissolves into mistrust and desperation. Severance has a way to use its atmosphere and tone to draw us into the psychological web. Through Ed Wild's evocative cinematography, Christian Henson's dynamic score, and the haunting, beautiful, yet isolated setting, the film creates a sensory experience that keeps us engaged and on edge. The juxtaposition of serenity and chaos, humor and horror, makes Severance a wonderful entry in psychological tension, using every element of its atmosphere to heighten the emotional impact. In Severance, the team doesn't have a single, clear-cut protagonist. Instead, leadership shifts among the characters as they grapple with the escalating terror. However, a standout figure is Richard, played by Tim McInerney, who emerges as the de facto leader, or at least tries to be. Richard embodies the archetype of a corporate middle manager, someone used to wielding authority in controlled, predictable environments. This makes his psychological unraveling all the more fascinating. At first, Richard clings to corporate rhetoric and protocols, attempting to rally the team with forced optimism and hollow reassurances. But as the group's situation continues to spiral out of control, his confidence crumbles, replaced by desperation and irrationality. His initial attempts to maintain order highlight the fragile illusion of control, both in the corporate world and in the life-threatening situations. The descent from composed leadership into frantic survivalism mirrors the audience's our growing unease, making Richard a relatable yet sometimes tragic figure. His psychological journey reflects a broader theme of the film: how individuals cope, or fail to cope, when stripped of the structures and systems that give them a sense of identity and control. Richard's breakdown underscores just how fragile the human psyche is when confronted with chaos and mortality. And I think one of the most effective elements of Severance is the ambiguity surrounding its antagonists. For much of the film, the identity and motives of the attacker remain shrouded in mystery. Each enhances their psychological impact. These villains are not over-explained or humanized with extensive backstories. Instead, they function as a faceless, unpredictable force, embodying the fear of the unknown. The psychological edge of the antagonists lies in their calculated yet erratic behavior. They seem to toy with the group, setting traps and orchestrating scenarios that force the characters into a state of heightened paranoia. This unpredictability keeps both the characters and us on edge, never knowing where the next attack will come from or what form it will take. The anonymity of the attackers allows us to project our fears onto them, making them more terrifying than a traditional, fully fleshed out villain. They symbolize a primal, existential threat, an unrelenting force that dismantles the character's sense of safety and order. By keeping the antagonist in the shadows, Severance taps into a universal fear, the fear of being hunted by an unseen and malevolent presence. The supporting cast in Severance is one of the film's greatest strengths, providing a mix of humor, tension, and emotional depth. Each team member represents a distinct personality type, from the overly confident blowhard to the timid, reluctant participant. These character dynamics not only add layers to the narrative, but also serve as a microcosm of the corporate world, with its clashing egos and hierarchical tensions. For example, Danny Dyer's character Steve provides much of the film's dark humor with his brash, often inappropriate remarks. At first, Steve might seem more like mere comic relief, but as the story progresses, his actions reveal unexpected bravery and loyalty. His character adds a human touch to the narrative, showing how humor can be a coping mechanism in the face of trauma. Then there's Maggie, played by Laura Harris, whose resourcefulness and pragmatism stand out as the group begins to fracture. While others panic or bicker, Maggie often takes decisive action, becoming an unexpected anchor for the group. Her calm demeanor under pressure contrasts sharply with the chaos around her, highlighting the psychological toll on those who are forced to step up when others falter. The interplay between the supporting characters and the protagonists is key to the film's psychological depth. Their fears, flaws, and moments of courage influence the group's decisions, often escalating the stakes. For instance, conflicts among the characters exacerbate their vulnerability. As trust erodes and paranoia takes hold, these dynamics make the horror feel more personal and relatable, as the group's unraveling mirrors real-world social and psychological pressures. Severance excels in creating these rich characters, each contributing to the film's psychological complexity. The protagonist's descent into desperation, the enigmatic menace of the antagonists, and the flawed but relatable supporting cast work together to create a deeply engaging and unsettling narrative. By exploring how individuals react to extreme stress, whether through leadership, humor, or survival instincts, the film paints a compelling portrait of human psychology under duress. Severance is rife with visual symbolisms that reinforce its themes of dehumanization and survival. One striking example is the recurring image of the corporate logo. This logo, a symbol of unity and teamwork in the corporate world, becomes a haunting motif as the characters are pitted against each other and their environment. The juxtaposition of this benign emblem and the group's descent into chaos underscores just how easily corporate ideals can crumble under pressure. Another powerful visual metaphor lies in the masks worn by the antagonists. These masks strip them of individuality, turning them into faceless representations of violence and oppression. The imagery mirrors the dehumanizing nature of corporate systems, where individuality is often sacrificed for conformity and profit. The masks also create a chilling dichotomy. While the protagonists are desperately trying to assert their humanity and survive, their attackers remain anonymous, cold, and inhuman, emphasizing the impersonal brutality of their actions. Then, beneath its dark humor and violent set pieces, Severance functions as a potential metaphor for workplace survival. The film reimagines corporate dynamics, replacing figurative life and death stakes, like meeting deadlines or avoiding layoffs, with literal ones. In this sense, the story serves as an exaggerated commentary on the pressures of modern work culture, where loyalty and camaraderie are often tested in the face of adversity. The characters' responses to the escalating danger reflect familiar workplace archetypes: the ambitious leader, the slacker, the team player, and the cynic all confront situations where their corporate personas either serve or fail them. These roles, exaggerated by the life-threatening stakes, question the value of teamwork, the reliability of leadership, and the extent to which individuals will prioritize self-preservation over loyalty. The film's premise, turning a team-building exercise into a deadly survival game, satirizes the idea that such activities foster unity and trust. Instead, the characters' descent into paranoia and self-interest highlights how stress fractures even the most cohesive teams. This subtext makes Severance not just a horror film, but a pretty scathing critique of the hollow promises of corporate culture. Speaking of corporate culture, Severance is a biting critique of corporate greed and exploitation. The story reveals that the company at the heart of the film is engaged in unethical practices, with these decisions coming back to haunt the characters in the most literal, violent way. This narrative thread draws attention to how institutional actions, often driven by profit motives, can have dire, far-reaching consequences. The film also explores the blurred lines between corporate responsibility and moral accountability. The company's actions, whether it's exploring labor or cutting corners for profit, manifest as physical threats to its employees. This dynamic serves as a grim reminder that corporate decisions, even those made in distant boardrooms, can have a tangible and devastating impact on individuals. And on a broader level, Severance critiques the alienation and depersonalization inherent in modern work culture. The isolated forest setting, far removed from the corporate office, represents the disconnect employees often feel from the institutions they serve. As the characters fight for their lives, they're forced to confront not just their attackers, but the systemic failures of the corporate entity that brought them here. This dual layer of conflict, external and existential, elevates the film beyond standard horror fare, offering a thought-provoking exploration of the darker aspects of modern society. Severance masterfully weaves these visual metaphors, psychological symbolism, and social commentary into its narrative. By using corporate culture as a backdrop for its horror, the film delivers a satirical, yet deeply unsettling critique of modern work life, forcing us to question the systems we participate in and the ethical compromises that often come with them. Now, Severance expertly manipulates pacing to enhance its psychological and narrative impact. The film begins with the deliberate slow burn. It immerses us in the mundane yet oddly uncomfortable dynamics of a corporate retreat. This initial pacing mirrors the false sense of security felt by the characters. The humor, the office politics, while amusing, create a sense of unease, as subtle hints of danger lurk just beneath the surface. When the horror elements are introduced, the pacing shifts dramatically. The slow unraveling of tension explodes into chaos as the characters find themselves in life or death situations. The film becomes deliberately erratic, reflecting the frantic and unpredictable nature of survival. Scenes oscillate between moments of quiet dread and bursts of violent action, and it keeps us on edge. This dynamic pacing mirrors the psychological state of the characters, whose sense of control quickly crumbles under the weight of fear and uncertainty. The clever interplay between slow-building suspense and sudden, jarring events heightens the tension. It ensures that we, like the characters, can never settle into a rhythm, and it amplifies the psychological stakes. And Severance thrives on subverting expectations. Just when we think we understand the stakes or the direction of the story, the film throws a curveball. Characters who seem pivotal meet shocking, untimely ends, while others step into unexpected roles of leadership or cowardice. These twists destabilize both the group dynamics and our assumptions, reinforcing the film's central theme of unpredictability. Betrayals and hidden motivations further complicate the narrative. The paranoia among the group heightens as alliances shift and survival instincts take precedence over loyalty. These unpredictable developments challenge us to reconsider who we can trust and question whether the real danger lies within the group itself, or is it the external threat? The film's psychological horror is intensified by its ability to constantly upend expectations. This unpredictability keeps us engaged and mirrors the disorientation of the characters as they navigate increasingly surreal and deadly situations. The conclusion of the film is one of the best in psychological horror endings. It's satisfying, yet deliberately unclear. Without diving into spoilers, the film resolves enough of its narrative to provide closure, but it also leaves lingering questions. This duality invites us to reflect on the events we've witnessed, encouraging us to piece together the implications of the story. The ambiguity of the ending is one of its greatest strengths, one of the greatest strengths of this genre in general, because by avoiding a neatly tied-up resolution, the film aligns with the unsettling nature of psychological horror. It forces us to grapple with the moral and thematic complexities presented throughout the story. This sense of unresolved tension ensures that the film's psychological impact endures, and we are left pondering the deeper implications of the characters' actions and the events that we just witnessed. The structure of Severance, a gradual build-up followed by erratic pacing, unexpected twists, and thought-provoking conclusion, it mirrors the emotional journey of the characters. We experience the same disorientation, fear, and eventual catharsis, making the film a very immersive experience. The balance between horror, humor, and psychological tension is a testament to the filmmaker's skill in crafting a narrative that's both unpredictable and cohesive. By blending these elements seamlessly, Severance transcends traditional horror tropes and delivers a story that's intellectually engaging and terrifying. Severance occupies a unique space within the horror genre, thanks to its balance of psychological tension and dark humor. While horror-comedy hybrids are nothing new, I think this film elevates the concept by weaving the humor seamlessly into a narrative that is driven by fear, paranoia, and survival. I think its influence can be seen in later films that similarly blend genres, such as 2010's Tucker and Dale vs. Evil and 2011's The Cabin in the Woods, both of which play with our expectations while maintaining a strong focus on character-driven tension. And I think something that sets Severance apart is its refusal to let humor undercut the stakes. The laughs often come from sharp dialogue or absurd situations, but they never diminish the film's pervasive sense of dread. This delicate balance between levity and terror, I think, has helped to inspire the new wave of horror filmmakers, proving that film can be both genuinely scary and bitingly funny without compromising either element. And the film's approach also paved the way for more psychological horror films to incorporate satire and critique, encouraging us to engage with deeper themes while still enjoying the visceral thrills of the genre. When Severance was released in 2006, it earned widespread praise from critics for its clever script, inventive direction, and ability to subvert the expectations. Reviewers lauded Christopher Smith's ability to navigate tonal shifts, creating a film that felt fresh and unpredictable. Audiences, however, were divided. Some fully embraced the genre-bending approach, while others found the combination of humor and horror too unconventional. Over time, Severance has become a hidden gem within the psychological horror genre. Fans of smart, genre-blurring cinema have rediscovered it, celebrating its sharp wit and nerve-wracking tension. Many viewers now praise its ability to tackle dark themes like corporate greed and human survival instincts, while remaining entertaining and accessible. Its reputation as a favorite has only grown, with audiences revisiting the film for its unique tone and memorable characters. It's often recommended by horror enthusiasts looking for a film that offers more than just scares, a testament to its lasting appeal. But what truly cements Severance as a standout in psychological horror is that it may have become a cult film at this point. While it didn't achieve that mainstream blockbuster success, its sharp commentary, inventive storytelling, and genre-bending appeal have earned it a loyal fan base. The film's ability to balance the humor and the horror, all while delivering incisive social critique, makes it resonate with audiences. And its cult status is bolstered by its rewatchability. On subsequent viewings, audiences can pick up on subtleties that may have been missed initially, hidden clues, nuanced performances, and layers of symbolism. This depth ensures that Severance continues to spark discussions among fans and solidify its place in the psychological horror canon. And another cult aspect is that this film gained traction through word-of-mouth recommendations, often being described as a must-watch for fans of unconventional horror. Its influence on genre filmmaking, combined with its lasting relevance, make it a film that continues to find new audiences and inspire passionate discourse. Severance proves that horror doesn't need to be confined to a single tone or formula. By blending the psychological terror with dark humor, it challenges the boundaries of the genre while delivering a thrilling and thought-provoking experience. Its legacy lies in its ability to entertain, unsettle, and provoke reflection, qualities that define the best psychological horror films. Alright, so my final thoughts and rating. Well, Severance stands out as a great example of psychological horror, one that isn't afraid to take risks with its tone. Combining elements of dark comedy with genuine horror, it creates a unique, unsettling experience that sticks with you. Directed by Christopher Smith, the film is a clever, twisted journey that really critiques corporate culture while crafting a nail-biting narrative about survival, paranoia, and the human psyche under duress. It's the film's ability to seamlessly shift between tension-filled moments and offbeat humor that really adds to its unpredictability. It keeps us on our toes, and as the characters become increasingly unhinged and the horror escalates, the dark humor never feels out of place. Even as the violence and psychological unraveling intensify, this balance of horror and satire is what makes Severance such a unique entry in the psychological horror genre, offering both a commentary on human nature and a visceral, emotional experience. The performances, led by a cast that includes The Office's Toby Jones and The League of Gentlemen's Andy Nyman, are another highlight. Each actor brings depth to their role, turning what could have been stock corporate characters into fully realized individuals whose psychological evolution throughout the film is captivating to watch. Ultimately, Severance doesn't just entertain with its thrills. It makes us think, questioning the value of life in a system that reduces people to cogs in a machine. It's genre-defying film that excels at both inducing fear and generating laughter, all while exploring deep psychological themes. Now, one of the greatest strengths of the film is its sharp writing. The dialogue is smart, often dripping with wit, and the way the story builds tension is incredibly effective. There's a fine balance between absurdity and genuine terror, with the humor often acting as a brief, dark respite before diving back into the harrowing psychological turmoil the characters are experiencing. The film never lets up, switching from comedic moments to brutal horror seamlessly, which heightens the emotional impact. And the atmosphere is also a standout element. The cinematography and sound design work hand in hand to create a claustrophobic and unnerving environment, especially given the film's isolated forest setting. The sense of unease permeates every frame, and the visceral, sudden bursts of violence hit harder because of the slow burn tension that builds throughout the film. The slow, escalating sense of paranoia is expertly conveyed, and each scene seems to carry more weight as the stakes grow higher. However, as we all know, films are not without flaws. While the tonal shifts between dark humor and horror are often what makes Severance so special, they might not be for everyone. For some, what I see as seamless blending of elements come across as jarring, especially if you're expecting a more straightforward horror experience. The humor, although brilliantly executed, might dilute the impact of the more disturbing moments for those who prefer their horror more somber and intense. Another potential weakness is that the film's central message and the critique of corporate culture might not resonate deeply with all viewers. While this theme adds a layer of social commentary, it may feel more secondary to the immediate survival narrative for those not particularly interested in corporate satire. Still, this critique does contribute an extra layer of meaning, making the film feel like more than just a standard horror comedy. So my personal rating, I give Severance a solid 7 out of 10. It's a must-watch for fans of horror comedy and psychological thrillers, offering a unique blend of tension and dark humor that is both intellectually engaging and emotionally gripping. Its ability to keep you guessing, both in terms of plot and tone, along with its rich characters and clever social commentary, ensures it remains an unforgettable viewing experience. However, I do think it is important to note that the film's unpredictable tonal shifts might not suit everyone's taste, and it may leave those looking for more straightforward horror a bit uncertain. But for those who appreciate a well-crafted, genre-bending film, Severance is definitely worth the watch. So what's my recommendation? If you are a fan of films that mix humor and horror and psychological tension, Severance is tailor-made for you. It offers more than just scares. Its sharp critique of social and corporate pressures, and still delivering visceral thrills in intense moments. The film is also for those who enjoy watching characters' psyches unravel in the face of seemingly impossible situations. Whether you're drawn to the satirical edge or the psychological horror elements, Severance delivers both with a striking effectiveness. So I think fans of films like Cabin in the Woods, Tucker and Dale vs. Evil, and Shaun of the Dead will find much to appreciate here. It's a pretty great blend of dark humor and unnerving suspense, and I think it's sure to please anyone who enjoys a thought-provoking yet terrifying experience. Now, I want to thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Real Talk Horror Edition. I hope you enjoyed our deep dive into Severance and all the psychological horror it brings to the table. If you've been enjoying the show, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And if you're feeling generous, I'd love it if you could leave me a review. Your feedback helps me grow and keeps the conversation going. You can also follow me on social media, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at Real Talk. I'm on X or Twitter occasionally at RealTalkPod. And our email, therealrealtalk@gmail.com. But go to social media, find out about upcoming episodes, behind-the-scenes content, and of course, more film talk. Feel free to engage with me. I always love hearing from people. What's your favorite psychological horror film? Have you seen Severance? Or do you have another film in mind that I haven't talked about that really got under your skin? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Send me a message. I'm always looking for new recommendations and discussing what makes these films so chilling. Now, I've got something really special coming up. I am going to drop a short history that I wrote about the evolution of horror, a deep dive into the genre's history. It'll probably be a little bit longer of an episode, but I want to break down the history of horror based on my experience, what I've seen, what I've read, and how I think of it. I hope you will enjoy it. I don't think you're going to want to miss it. But until then, stay scared, and remember the most terrifying thing is often lurking just beneath the surface. So keep your eyes peeled and your mind open, and I'll talk to you next time on Real Talk Horror Edition. Stay spooky.
Into the silence dark, whispers in the midnight park. The night is cold, there's no escape. Ghostly figures take their shape. Gods play a twisted game. Fear and terror stake their claim. Footsteps follow close behind. Haunting thoughts invade your mind. Run away, but they won't go. In the darkness, fear will grow. Midnight shadows come to play. In your dreams, they'll always stay. Windows rattle, doors they creak. Ghostly whispers start to speak. Every corner hides a fear. Close your eyes, they're drawing near. Candles flicker, spirits call. In the night they'll take it all. Midnight strikes, the clocks rewind. Nightmares now are intertwined. Run away, but they won't go. In the darkness, fear will grow. Midnight shadows come to play. In your dreams, they'll all